All right, another very functional aspect of level building, level design, is actually sound. Creating sound or placing existing sound into your levels to really sell what's going on visually. Just like in a good movie, really good sound is at least, half the experience, really. So let's talk about ambient generic sounds, which we can trigger, and then some environment sounds, are sounds that when you walk into an area, say you walk indoors or outdoors, or you walk to the beach, or you walk inside a big warehouse or something, you want kind of complete environment of sound called a soundscape to be heard. So use our entity tool. Let's go back to our entities, and let's just pick an ambient generic. Place an ambient generic. We'll just shrink our grid and move that up a little bit. Selection tool. If we zoom out, Alt-Enter with our ambient generic sound, we have the opportunity to name, so we can say sound 1, apply, and we can pick a sound from our large list of sounds included in the game. And typically, we're not going to want to do environment sounds in this way. We want to do things like people saying to come do this, do that, or some kind of effect, like if you you want to shock someone, you walk into a room and you just want bang, something to scare them. What is this? Breakable metal. There you go. Preview. That'd probably scare you if you came around the corner and you just heard, I'd look up. So, it's something like that. Let's, okay. Select that. You can sample it again from the right in the object properties box. Adjust the volume. There's actually some dynamic presets based on a text file, a script file inside the core files of your different games. You can go down the list. There's some effects for kind of DSP, signal processing for your sounds. But generally, they're going to play best the way that they are. You can also adjust volume, fades, your pitch, your lows, and your highs. The max audible distance. If we zoom out here, you're going to notice we have this really big sphere all around our world. That's the audible distance of that sound. It can be turned on or off in view helpers, just like our light cones, if it's somehow getting in your way. So we can shrink that way down to something just like 250 or something. Apply. And as we zoom into our level, you'll see, even though it's outside the top and bottom, it takes up most of our room. You'll be able to hear that sound in most of the room now. And we can set up, a couple different things to make us hear the sound. Let's just do something real simple with the trigger. You could also have a button cause a sound, a different series of events. When something breaks, it creates a sound. When you blow something up, it triggers a bunch of different sounds, birds flying away and explosions in the distance and things like this. But let's just set up a really simple trigger. So when we walk around a corner, we'll spook ourselves. So let's create a couple pieces of geometry here to set up that scene. We'll change from this button texture we got here to one of our dev textures. Make a little bit of a wall. And move our wall to the floor. And we don't want it to be right on top of old Gordon, so let's just give ourselves a little bit of a corner there. As soon as we get around this corner, boom, we'll hear that sound. So make ourselves a little path that we need to walk. Make it a little scarier even. Control M to rotate 90 degrees. Shrink this baby down. Okay. And we'll duplicate that guy as well. Okay, so now we're going to be forced to kind of walk through our level like this. And in this last corner, let's add a trigger to make ourselves startled. Just kind of add a box in this corner of the map as soon as we get in there. Just around the corner. Trigger. Create that. Alright, now we're going to tie that to an entity. We're going to make it a trigger. We'll just trigger once. Don't need that sound to just keep blasting us in the ear. trigger underscore once. Once. Apply. Alright, and its output is going to be on trigger. On start touch. Sound 1. There we go. Play sound. Simple enough. Let's add a little bit of moody lighting in here just to finish the effect. Interestingly. Quickly though, quickly. I know we're in a hurry. Alright, so we'll just give it something kind of ominous or dark. And we'll duplicate our light a couple times just for effect. Make that portion where we're scared nice and dark, fairly dark. Alright, and our sound is going to want to come from, maybe originate over here. We could actually have another sound, originate over here, so as soon as you get around the corner, you hear something off in the distance. But we're going for a scare tactic, so we'll put it over there. Because, in case you didn't know, sound in Source games is actually directional, so you do get that great effect as you're running around. Save as Oasis Ambient. Okay, and let's run map. Alright, so here we are in our level here. We're crawling around. It's kind of spooky. Oh gosh, this corner looks dark. Oh, good. Nothing, right? Nothing. Oh, what happened? Oh. And you can adjust some other factors about it to make it even spookier, but there you go. It only triggers the one time. Let's talk about how to add an entire environment to this level here. Soundscapes are basically sets of sounds called out within a text file inside the game engine. So they can be kind of complex to create new. We're not going to go that far quite yet. What we are going to do is just play around with those soundscapes and see how they work and how you can use them, include them in your level. So for the entity tool, under entities, you're going to type env underscore soundscape. Place one of those babies right on the other side of our kind of maze of walls here. So we'll add that soundscape. As we enter that area, we'll be able to hear it. And just like our other soundscape, we have this kind of helper object showing an audible range, but it's not the same as the ambient generic. The ambient generic range means that sound is only able to be heard within that sphere. What our sphere does here for our environment soundscape is actually just the trigger radius. So it has a built-in trigger. When you hit this sphere, the soundscape will start, and it actually will keep going until you either tell it to fade out with a trigger, with an input, or you meet another soundscape, at which point they'll cross-fade. One will fade out, one will fade in to the next soundscape. So the radius is just the trigger size that you need, but the sound will still playing even if you walk out of that space. So we can name it. We'll name this Soundscape 1. Apply. Start disabled. No, we want it to be enabled as soon as you touch it for it to go on. Radius we talked about. You can actually choose a soundscape. There's automatic, indoor, outdoor. There's lists of soundscapes online. We actually have a list on the DVD in the support files you can check out. Another good way to just pick a soundscape and listen to it and bring it in here and check it out as well is to run your game. So let's save this as Soundscape before we get too far. Soundscapes. And let's just run the game again. And I'll show you in the console how you can actually listen to some soundscapes. Alright, so in the game, bring up the developer console by hitting the tilde off to the left of the 1. And then enable cheats so that we can do some other goodies in here by typing sv underscore cheats. You guys probably know this. 1. Alright, we've enabled cheats. Now we can hit play, soundscape, space. And at this point, it's going to give us every every command that begins with play soundscape. So let's go down our list, and you'll get canals, utility, head crab canister, shoreline, tunnel, utility sounds we are not looking for. We want canals, junkyard. Try one of those. Hit enter to play it. You can grab any of these. You can keep listening to other soundscapes. Let's play one more. And then I'll show you how you can actually grab it and put it into the game, and we can play with it within the game. I don't know, one of these guys, canals. We went through the canals. Tech demo. Frogs, sounds good. Listen to some frogs. And if you hit up on the keypad, as you're pressing up and down to scroll through that big list, you can hold shift and back up the cursor with the left arrow. And we'll just get that entire name of the soundscape, copy it, delete, and exit out. And then within our game, our soundscape field, just paste that baby right in. Boink. We've got our D1 canals, water, tunnels with frogs. We'll hit apply and make sure we do that. And we need to set up some sound positions. You'll see in the key values we have 8 sound positions, 0 through 7. So what we need for our sound positions, we'll create with the entity tool some info targets. Useful entity with multi-purpose, with several different purposes. And let's just, we don't need to do all 8. We can set up 4 or 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, we can set one back over here. Okay, and basically these are going to be the spatial sound for our soundscape. So these are going to be locations, they're kind of like speaker locations where our soundscape will seem to originate. So let's click on each of these guys. We got to give them, we have to give our targets a name. So we'll just name them Soundscape 1 Target 1. And go to the next guy. Drop down the list and just change that last number, obviously, to 2, 3. You could also copy and paste this, whatever's quicker. And 4. And then we'll go back to our soundscape itself, and where we have the soundscape positions, we'll just go ahead and select all those guys from the list. 2, 3, 4. And as soon as I hit apply, you'll see it draws lines out to those locations. So sound is going to appear, or seem like it's coming from these different locations. Okay, we have our soundscape applied. Let's run our map. Save, run. Alright, we got our level. We don't hear any soundscape just yet. Come around our corner, we should get that nice scary sound. Jeez. Just kidding. Obviously. Alright, we'll come around, touch this area. Oh. What's that? Suddenly we were out in the swamp. And we got these frogs and stuff. And you'll notice, you come out to some of these points, you got a good speaker setup, especially if you have 5.1 or something. You really get this great atmospheric effect, different effects coming from further away, kind of cycling through where they are. Maybe that water's kind of off to our right. We can turn. Now it's off to our left. Pretty cool. And we're still going to hear it as we walk back to where we were, even all the way back to the beginning. Turn that down. You should probably hear your own sound instead of the ones from my computer here. And let's show how we can fade between different soundscapes, because that's going to be important as you're setting them up. Obviously, if you walk outside into the swamp, when you walk back inside, you don't want to hear the swamp just as loud as ever. So you can set up triggers to raise or lower, or set up new soundscapes. We could even set up a soundscape so that it will only trigger after you've done something else, kind of like what we did with those filters and stuff. So let's just do another soundscape. And environment, soundscape. Add that in. We can shrink the radius. We don't want we don't want this radius, in this case, to escape into this outside edge, because if this were the outside swamp world, you get in here, we trigger the swamp, great, and then if we walk right here, we'll trigger the soundscape that we're going to add to the other side of the wall. So we're going to want to shrink that radius. Alt-Enter, bring that up. Take our radius down, something nice and small. Or we can move it over a little bit. Maybe it'll just go down to 96 or something. And we'll adjust the position of our soundscape here so that it's in this area here. So as soon as we hit back in this side, so you kind of come around this corner, kind of more in this house, we could add a roof to it. That might help the effect somewhat. And we just have to change a few other things about this. We'll just, first off, let's add some of these our sound points. I want to add at least one or two. Just get our entity out of the wall, even though it's a sound entity and it shouldn't matter. And then we'll add some of our info targets. Remember, you can have as many as 8 per soundscape. Let's just go ahead and add 2. We'll have to name them. And we'll have to name our soundscape. Come to that. So we'll name our soundscape Soundscape 2. And our info targets, Soundscape 2, target 1. And Soundscape 2, target 2. Alright, link those guys to our soundscape. 1, 2, apply. Whoop, what did we do wrong? We attached one to the wrong thing there. Both of them to the wrong thing. Soundscape 2, target 1. Soundscape 2, target 2. There you go. Now they're pointing to the right guys. And let's find a new soundscape to add to this secondary soundscape, which will actually be the first soundscape that we hear. So let's run our map, I suppose. Or take a look online or at the list, or at the list in your support files for the range of soundscapes you have available. You're going to differ in different games. Deathmatch can use all the Half-Life 2 soundscapes. Counter-Strike, Data Feed have their own soundscapes. Let's go back, enable cheats again. Play soundscape. We don't even have to listen to it if we don't want to right now, if we just want to pick one and copy it. Let's see, it's something that sounds like it's indoors. Automatic dialogue, wind chimes, water, we got that. Spooky infested pipe. That's got my attention. Okay, spooky infested pipe. Copy that. Shift and the left mouse. Excuse me, hold shift and tap or hold the left arrow on your keyboard until you got it all highlighted. Control C to copy it. Exit through the console. And we'll just change our soundscape there. Apply. Make sure everything's working. We have those targets set up. They're linked. Yep. Save. Run. Run. Alright. Now let's see if we get some spooky sounds. Not hearing too much spooky. Got me that time. Oh, there we go. There's a spooky sound. They just take a little while to queue up. Very quiet, so you'll see we only really are hearing them with our different points. So as we get close to this info point that we identified, we get a little bit of sound. As we get away from it, kind of lose a bit. There you go. Just kind of pulses, kind of spooky dripping, but it's not too often. Kind of a lower sound. But as we get into here, listen to that fade out and immediately fade up to our very lively scene of frogs and water dripping, etc. And then as we go back down our hall, turn that down a little bit. We go back over here. That fades out and we get a little bit of water drip. Ooh, some owl sounds. That's good. Yeah, that is pretty spooky. I like that one. I've never actually, don't think I've ever heard that one before. We could add more of our little speakers, or little info targets. Kind of fades out as we get over here, and then fade right back up to our outside sound. So definitely, I mean, imagine that we created a level that was a spooky house and outside was kind of Louisiana Bayou. Those two sounds going in and out are going to sell that level. And it is possible to create your own soundscapes by recording your own sounds and changing about some kind of text file scripts. And maybe we'll get some free tutorials up online about how to do that, because some of it you can do pretty easily, and some of it takes a lot more work. So, sound, something to add to your level.